Welcome to channel Q Automation. In our last session, we have seen how to use JSON path. We have also seen validating specific field. For example, in our previous session, we have seen the example of, let's say, I want to validate in my response whether I am getting title equals to this one or not. So that validation we have checked in our previous session by using JSON path. Now continuing with that, today we will see one more type of example in which we will use JSON object. Now, before that, let's take a situation. In our previous session, what we have validated? We have validated the title by using JSON path. So we have provided one fixed JSON path for verifying title of product which is present at third index. But let's take a situation where, let's say, there are 30 products. So in this response, we are getting around 30 products. There might be possibility that, let's say, tomorrow the sequencing changed. For example, the product which is coming at third index, let's say the product which is coming at third index started coming at second or let's say fifth index, or let's say one product got removed, then the index will change. And in such situation, if you have used JSON path finder to find out the JSON path, so if you have used a specific path for that title, then that will fail because the index will change. So if you say, if you have used this JSON path, but tomorrow the position of that specific product got changed in my response, so for that situation, even though that title of that product is present, but it is present at some different JSON path location, so it will fail. So that test case will fail. So now what my requirement is, I want to traverse through all the title of the product, and then I want to verify if that specific title of product is present at any index, or let's say at any location. It should consider as a pass. So I want to traverse through, or let's say I want to travel through all the title values of all the products. Let's say for this title, for second product title, for third product title. So I want to traverse through all the products, all the product title. I want to fetch all the values, and then I want to compare whether this specific value is present or not. So instead of giving the specific JSON path, what I want to do is, my requirement is, I want to traverse through all the titles of all the products, and then I want to compare if my expected title is present, then my test case is passed. So for such operation, we have to use one special object class, that is JSON object. So we have to create a JSON object class object that we can use for such operations. So today we will see practically how to tackle this situation by using JSON object. So again, for that we have to import some pom.xml that we have already have in our project file. JSON related, that is JSON path we already have. This is again another dependency which we should have, that is the JSON related dependency. We have JSON path, and we have org.json as well. So this is the one JSON related dependency which we should have in pom.xml file. Now let's create a new file for practical demonstration. So let's create a new class. I'm naming it as Parsing JSON response JSON object demo. So this is the class name which I am giving. After creating this class, let me just quickly fetch all the static imports of the packages which we require. So I'm just opening previous sessions file. I'm copying all the imports and let's paste this in our current file. Now let's create one method, void test parsing response JSON object. So you can provide any name. This is just a method name which I am giving. After that, I am just giving at the rate test annotation. So we have provided test annotation. Now, what I will do, I will just directly use the second approach where we are going to store the response in response type of object. So let me just copy that part as well from our previous session. I'm just copying this. We are using the same URL and the same response will be received. I'm just pasting here. So we are using get request on this endpoint, which will give you this response. So this is the entire response which contains 30 products. Basically this JSON response, this is a JSON response which contains products array, and each array, basically in this array there are multiple JSON objects for each product. So total 30 JSON object products are present. So data of 30 products is present in the form of each individual JSON object. So that's the response. I am storing it in my response type of variable. This is a response object which stores the response in the form of object type. Now the next step. Now we have the our requirement, right? So we understood the requirement. We want to fetch all the titles and then we want to compare if my expected title is present, then the test case should pass or it should fail. So I want to traverse through all the titles. So before that, we have to fetch all the titles. So in such situation, we can use JSON class object. So JSON object class. So I'm just creating the object of JSON object class. So JSON object class, I'm naming it as JOBJ equals to new JSON object. So I'm simply creating one object of JSON object class. And in this class, we have to pass one parameter. That parameter is basically this response type of variable in which we are storing the response. So we have to pass this, but this is in the form of object type. Before passing this as an object type into the JSON object class object, we have to convert it into a string format. So we should not pass as an object type to JSON object class. We want to traverse through that JSON object. So it should be in the form of string data. So I'm just converting that response type of object into string. So I'm just converting that response in which this is basically response type of object. Before passing it to JSON object class, we have to first convert it into a string form and then we are passing it into a JSON object class. So let's import that as well. So let's import this JSON object from org.json. So we have to pass response type of variable while creating JSON object class object, but we have to pass that as a string format. So why we are passing it as a string format? Because we want to traverse through. So by using this JSON object class object, we can use various traversal method to get the data from response. So that should be in the form of string format. So that's why we have to convert, because this response type is basically of object type. This object is of type object. We have to convert that first into as string format and then we have to pass it into while creating object of JSON object class. Now by using this JSON object class object, by using this JSON object class object, that is basically JOBJ, now we can perform various operation. Now first one is, first let's understand the structure of the response. So as I said earlier, what we have to do is we have to use one for loop. So I want to traverse through all the titles. So first we have to use one for loop. First integer I equals to 0. I will start because index starts with 0. So if you see the structure of the response, so let me just quickly show you the structure of the response. So it is basically of one entire, so entire response is of JSON object. So if you consider basically entire response, let's say it's in curly bracket, it is entirely one JSON format object. Inside that there is one array of products. If you see inside that there is one array of products. So there is products, basically this is one array. If you see, this is a square bracket. So products is a array which contains multiple JSON objects again. Every product detail. So for example, this ID equals to 1. This is one product. It itself is a one JSON object. So this products array contains list of JSON object. There are total 30 JSON objects present in this products array. So this is the first JSON object, after that comma, and then second JSON object, then third JSON object, then fourth JSON object. So similarly, there are total 30 objects, 30 JSON objects present inside this products array. So I hope you understood the structure. So basically this entire response is one JSON object. Inside that there is a products array which contains individual JSON object. So there are total multiple JSON objects, total 30 JSON objects are present, and each product object is one JSON object. It's again in the form of JSON which contains all the product related details. So for first object, for second product there is a second JSON object, for third product there is third JSON object. So this is the structure. This is the entire format is a JSON format, one JSON object in which there is products array. Products array contain list of products which are in the form of JSON object only. So every individual product is basically one JSON object. For product 1 there is JSON object 1, product 2 is basically JSON object 2. So that is the structure. If you see, this is products is one array which contains multiple JSON objects. So if you see, this is first JSON object for product 1, then comes second JSON object of product 2, then comes third JSON object of product 3. So we have to traverse through all this JSON object and we have to fetch this title field. We have to fetch this title field. So for that we have to use one for loop. Index starts with 0. So in products array, index starts with 0. So first element will be present on 0 index. So that's why I am taking starting index as 0. And then how many times we have to traverse? So total number of products. So in that array, products array, what is the number of products? That is the size of that array. Up to that time we have to traverse. We have to use that loop. But how to get the size? So to get that array size, we have to use JSON objects class object. So which we have created JOBJ. So what I will do, I will just create one variable. Let's say I'm just creating one variable, integer size equal to JSON objects object, that is JOBJ. We have one method called get JSON array. So this method, what is the array name? If you see, there can be multiple arrays which can be present in the response, but we want length of this specific products array. So we have to pass this name of the array. So get JSON array, name of that array, that is products, and then we have to use get, we have to just get the length. So we have dot length. So what it will return? It will return length of that array, total number of products which are present in that array, overall length of that specific array. And this size we can variable, this we can use here directly inside our for loop. So that many times it will traverse, or that loop will be executed, and then we are just incrementing that I value by 1. So now this is my for loop. So now next step is, we want to get title from each JSON object. So I will just create one variable, let's say product title string product title, and we have to use jobj. So first I will just get entire JSON array, jobj dot get JSON array. So it will get that entire array, but which array we want to fetch, again we have to pass the name here. So what is the name of that array? Products. So what we are doing here is, first by using this object we are just getting the JSON array. So what is the array name? Products. So products is the array name, so that we are fetching by using get JSON array. We are passing the name of that array, and from that entire array, now individually I want to access one JSON object. So I will just fetch one JSON object. So what it will do is, so let's understand. First I'm just using object of JSON object class jobj dot get array. What is the array name? Products. So it will fetch this entire products array. From this entire products array, again we want to fetch this first JSON object. First JSON object. So it will fetch dot get JSON object. So it will reach to first JSON object which is present in first iteration. In next iteration, I want to fetch title from this second JSON object. In next iteration, third JSON object. So here we have to pass the index. So in first iteration, I value will be equal to 0. So it will reach up to which point? It will reach up to this point. And inside this JSON object, we want to fetch the title. So if you see, once you reach inside this object, we want to fetch this title for first object. So that's why we have to put dot get which field we want to get, title field, but that will be in the form of object type. So this will return in the form of object. So first we have to convert it into to string. That's why I'm using toString method. So let's understand. So what it will do, this object will first get entire JSON array of products. What is the name of that array? Products. Then we are going into first JSON object, first JSON object, and from that first JSON object, so I will, in first iteration, value of I will be 1, 0, not 0, 1, but 0. 0 means first product. And then we are getting title of that first JSON object. So I hope this is the very important statement which you have to understand. How we are traversing through. So first I am just getting jobj dot get JSON array of products. So what it will do? It will get this, it will reach up to this point. So it will fetch all the array, entire array. After getting this entire array, we want to fetch first JSON object. That's why I'm just putting dot get JSON object. And since we want to iterate through all those present JSON objects, so that's why I'm just using I. If you put 1, it will only go to second one. So index will start with 0. So first, in first iteration, it will be 0. It will fetch the first JSON object. It will get the title, and it will convert it to string format. It will store it in the product title. But we want to iterate through all the JSON objects. So that's why I'm just putting value of I. So in first iteration, I will be 0. So it will go to 0th index JSON object. It will fetch the title. It will put it here. And then we can simply print that title. So I'm just printing that. Let's simply print that product title. So this statement will print first product title which is present on 0th index. Then in next iteration, again it will fetch second, that is the first object. Second means first index, then second index, third index, fourth index. So from 0 to 29. So from 0 to 29, because size will be 29, array length will be 29. So it will fetch all the 30 product titles and it will print it. So first let's execute this one and let's see whether it is able to print all the titles of products or not. So let's execute this, run as test-ng test. So it should print all the title of all the products, all the 30 products, starting from 0th index, first index, second index, which are present in that products array. Something got failed. Let's see what is failed. Let's save this and let's execute one more time. And this time it got passed. And if you see the console output, now these are all the title name of 29, all the 30 products totally. So if you see our response, let me just show you the response as well. So if you see the response here, so first title is this one. If you see in our console output, this one. Second one is this one. So if you see the output again, second one for ID2, this is the title. Up to last one. So what is the last one here? Which is the last one? ID equals to 30, title is Kiwi. So let's see in our console output, all the 30 titles are printed. Last one is this one. So it is successfully able to print all the titles of 30 products. So it travels through all the JSON object one by one. It fetched the title and printed the title. But our main requirement was not to print the title. That's why I'm just commenting this now. What was our requirement? So we want to validate if specific title is present, then only test case should pass. So we can simply use if condition now. So let's say I'm just using if condition. If this specific product title, if this product title dot equals, and in this we have to put the value which we want to compare. So if the product title equals, now let's say I want to compare with anything you can take. So let's say this title is honey jar. So I want to verify if any of the product contains this title of honey jar, then my test case should pass regardless of position of that index of that product. It can be present at any index, but if it is present, I want to make my test case as passed. So what I will do, I will just put one variable. Let's say I'm just creating one variable. So before this for loop, I'm just creating one variable. Let's say boolean status equal to false. By default I'm setting it as false. By default I'm setting it as false. Whenever I get this product title, so after traversing through all the titles, if it matches with honey jar, then I can simply change status equal to true. I will make status equal to true and I will break the loop. So at any position, if you find this product title which matches with honey jar, I want to come out of the loop after making status equal to true. After making status equal to true, I will be breaking that loop. And then at last I can simply assert it. So I can simply use assert dot assert equals. I will just compare whether my status, it can be true or false. If it is true, both will match and test case will pass. But after traversing through all the titles, if I don't find this specific title anywhere, then what will the status? So in that case, it will not enter in this loop. So it will not enter in the if condition. So it will keep status as false only. So it will pass the status value as false. So false and true will not match. It will fail the test case. It will fail the assertion. So now let's save this and let's execute this test. Now let's execute this test and let's see whether the test case gets passed or not. Say test case is successfully passed because that specific title is present. Now instead of this title, let's say I'm just putting some random title, incorrect title. So this title I'm just passing as expected. So it will traverse through all the 30 product titles. It will fetch the titles, but it will not match with anything. It will not match with this one. So the status will remain false. It will pass that false value here. False and true will not match. So test case will fail. So now let's execute this. This time test case should fail. If you see, test case got failed. And in console also it is saying why it is failed, because expected was true, but it found false. So now let me just again remove this. So we can validate for any field, not just title. Depending on our requirement, we can put conditions for any field which we want to validate. Now let's say I'm just putting some another one, let's say valid one. Let's say ice cream. So let's say this is the title which I am fetching. I'm comparing if my response contains any product with title equals to ice cream, then test case should pass. In this case, test case should pass. So I'm just putting that value here. Let's save this. Let's run as test-ng test. Now this will again traverse through all the product titles and test case got passed because it successfully found that value. That's why the status become true, and in this assertion it will be passed as true. So true and true match the conditions, it will pass the assertion. So this is how we can use JSON object. So let's revise one more time. So what we have done in previous session, we have used JSON path. But what was the limitation of that? So we have to pass exact JSON path of that field which we want to validate. But let's say in response, if the position of any of the element changes, then it will fail that specific JSON path. So in such situation, let's say I want to validate whether in my response if specific field values are present or not, regardless of their position, we can use JSON object. By using JSON object, so we have to first create the object of JSON object class, in which we have to pass the response as string. So we have to pass the response in the string format. Then we have used for loop. How many times we have to execute this loop? Total size of the array. So in response, there is a products array which contains total 30 elements. That's why we have to first get the size of that array by using get JSON array, name of the array and dot length method. It will give you total length of that products array. How many elements present in that array, it will give you, and how that much times we can execute this loop to traverse through all the JSON objects. Then we want to fetch the product title. So for that, first we have to get the entire JSON array of products. Inside that, we are going to capture each individual JSON object, and from that JSON object we are fetching the field as title, and we are converting into string format. We are storing that value in product title, and then we are comparing if product title matches with ice cream. In the iteration, if it matches with ice cream, then immediately make status as true and break the loop, and then we are using assertion. So this is how we can work with JSON object. So whenever you want to traverse through all the different elements, or let's say array, if there are multiple JSON objects are present, we can use JSON object class object. So JSON object class object we can use to traverse through different type of multiple JSON objects. So I hope you understood this session. Practice more, keep learning, keep growing. Thanks again.